Hi there, and welcome to my absolute beginner's guide to League of Legends, dated 2020. This video is aimed at those people who are completely new to MOBAs in general, and will touch upon several aspects of the game that you need to know about in order to get started. If you're interested in getting into League, you might be understandably confused and possibly put off by how vast the game seems. And although it looks daunting, there's only a few fundamental concepts to grasp before the game starts feeling fun, and the rest will become second nature to you with time. Before we jump in, it's best to think of League as a game which is about 50% reliant on strategy and teamwork, and 50% reliant on your own mechanical skill, aim, and reflexes. Games on average last around 35 minutes, but can occasionally stretch into the 50-minute to 1 hour mark. I'll start by explaining the win condition and ultimate aim in a game of League. The standard map in League, Summoner's Rift, has a symmetrical, simple layout. There are 3 lanes: top lane, or top, middle lane, or mid, and bot lane, bot, separated from each other by the jungle. At 2 corners of the map you can find each team's base, which is where you spawn in and can buy items, more on that later. At the far corner of each base is the Nexus. The game is over once either Nexus is destroyed, victory going to the team that destroys the enemy's Nexus. Each lane in the game has turrets. These are deadly structures which assist the team that defends them, which need to be destroyed in order to advance up the lane. So in order to push up towards an enemy nexus, you'll need to destroy the structures in a lane to get there. Your champion is the player-controlled entity. There are around 150 champions in the game, and each one is different, with completely variant abilities, stats, and roles to fill. Whatever champion you're playing, right-clicking will cause the champion to move. Right-clicking an enemy will cause your champion to perform a basic attack on them, which is sort of like your standard attack. I'm playing an easy champion called Ashe. The green bar above my head is my health bar. The blue bar is my mana bar. Mana is a resource that is used up when I cast spells. Both health and mana regenerate passively. I can see some more of my champion's stats by looking at the lower left corner of my HUD. Stats are factors that affect various things relating to my champion, such as my attack damage, which tells me how much damage my basic attacks will do, attack speed, which is how many attacks per second I can perform, and critical chance, which increases my chance of doing a critical strike, which does significantly more damage than a basic attack. There are other stats, but most of them are rather self-explanatory. Stats are increased in 2 ways, by leveling up your champion or by buying items. Every game, your champion will start at level 1, and as the game goes on you will rank up until level 18. Each time you rank up, your champion becomes stronger by getting better stats, and you are also given the option to strengthen one of your 4 skills. Most champions in the game have 4 skills, termed Q, W, E, and R, based on what key button they are bound to, as well as a passive ability which is there in the background. Skills vary wildly in what they can do, but they always have some sort of function that will either hinder the enemy or help yourself. For example, my Q empowers my next 2 basic attacks to do extra damage. My W is a punch that does more damage based on how much damage I've taken myself. On the D and F keys, you have 2 more spells called summoner spells that are universal to every champion, and are chosen before the game starts. For example, here I'm using Heal, which lets me heal myself and gives me a burst of speed. Most of the gameplay in League revolves around you trying to use your skills and basic attacks to outplay and outdamage your opponent, or to support your teammates. Skills may apply effects to enemies rather than just damaging them. An example of this would be a slow, which slows down the enemy's movement speed, or a stun. Slows and stuns are both examples of crowd control, abilities which restrict an enemy's ability to move. A stun will prevent the enemy from moving or casting spells during its duration. There are other types of effects that spells may apply, such as roots, which stop movement but not spellcasts, knock-ups, and silences, which stop spellcasts only. You'll learn most of these as you go along. Spells may be active or passive. Active spells are those which need to be cast by pressing a button, such as Q. A passive effect is one which is active automatically in the background of my gameplay. For example, Set's passive is that he regenerates health faster if he's low on health. Simple. Another common passive that several champions have is a form of effect such as burst damage every X amount of basic attacks. As I mentioned earlier, the two ways you get stronger over the course of a game of League are leveling up and buying items. Leveling up occurs passively as you kill minions and enemies and push objectives. Gold is the in-game currency and is obtained by lost hitting minions, killing enemies, and pushing objectives. Lost hitting is a super important, difficult activity which you'll spend most of the early game doing. It describes the action of performing a basic attack which kills a minion, which sounds easy but is actually quite hard to time. If you don't lost hit a minion, you'll only gain experience when it dies and you will not receive any gold reward. It's crucial to spend your time in lane trying to kill minions and getting the last hit on them, especially the big cannon minions, in order to maximize your gold income. Don't worry, lost hitting is very difficult and even pros miss minions from time to time. Lost hitting is also called farming or CS, so don't be surprised if you hear these terms. The number at the top right of your screen shows how many minions you've killed and is a good estimate to your gold. Your gold is used in your base, which you can travel back to by pressing B at any time during play and channeling for a few seconds. Gold lets you buy items. Items are also extremely varied in their function and stat building, but I recommend that for the time being you stick to what the shop recommends when you open it up. In general, items will strengthen your champion by adding stats to them and by offering up passives. For example, Triforce, an item often taken by champions in the top lane, adds a passive where you gain movement speed, that means you go faster, when you basic attack an enemy, which is hugely useful when you need to chase them down. Some items have active spells to them, meaning you need to press a button to use their ability. By default, these are found on your number pad from keys 1 to 6. Champions in different lanes serve different functions. In 99% of your games of League, there'll be a top laner, one jungler, one mid laner, and two people in bot lane, one support and one ADC. Top lane usually consists of champions who like prolonged fights or sustain to keep themselves alive in lane. The two roles you'll see the most up here are bruisers and tanks. For those completely unfamiliar with MMOs or MOBAs, a tank is a champion who soaks up the damage dealt to the team by buying items in the store which gives him armor or health. Tanks tend not to do so much damage, but their purpose in a team fight is invaluable. They also tend to have lots of CC, crowd control, which I've mentioned earlier. Jungling is a complicated role where rather than pushing any lane and farming minions, you spend most of your time farming jungle camps instead, which are neutral entities that both teams can attack. And you look for opportunities to assist your team in killing the enemy champion in their lane. When a jungler attacks your lane, it's called ganking. A good gank from the jungle can be all you need to get ahead in lane, by helping you secure a kill or push a turret. Junglers also have the key responsibility of taking control of two neutral objectives, called Drake and Baron. Drake, also known as Dragon, is a neutral objective which spawns every couple of minutes and provides a very helpful buff. There are various buffs that the Drake can provide, but they all improve your likelihood of winning teamfights. Always go for your Dragon when it's possible. Baron is a later game objective who is useful for empowering your minions when it comes to pushing the lanes in those last few minutes of the game. Mid lane is kind of a catch-all lane where basically anything works, but the characteristic champions who stick to this lane are assassins, who do burst damage and are very good at killing squishy champions, squishy meaning they don't have high health pools, or mages, who throw out spells from a range and are basically a pain in the ass to deal with. ADCs are attack damage carries. These champions generally build attack damage items and tend to focus on damaging the enemy from afar with their basic attacks, which are ranged. The support is their best friend who sticks in lane with them and protects them, keeps them alive, and creates opportunities for the ADC to capitalize on by damaging enemies, stunning them, and setting up plays.
Oh, hello.
So, having covered all that, you've basically learned most of the basics of the game of Summoner's Rift, and although I haven't delved into detail on much of the more complicated aspects of the game, they're pretty much extra and not as important for you to start having fun and enjoying the game. I hope that with my guide you'll be able to join a game of League, have fun, and maybe even win a couple of games. Maybe I'll see you there on the Rift sometime. Goodbye.